The Dell G7 is a fairly well-priced gaming laptop, but just how well does it perform in games? I've tested 16 different games at all setting levels to find out. Just quickly, before we dig into the benchmark results, I'll cover off the main specs in the laptop. There's an Intel i9-8950HK 6-core CPU, 16GB of DDR4 memory running at 2666MHz in dual channel, an M.2 SATA SSD, and Nvidia 1060 Max-Q graphics. However, it's also available with an i5 or i7 CPU, or with 1050 or 1050 Ti graphics. So this is the top-end model, expect lower results with different specs. Other than that, I was running Windows 10 with the latest Nvidia drivers, so let's see how well it runs. Fortnite was running well at all setting levels. Even at epic settings, I didn't notice any issues. I was able to average above 60 FPS, and the 1% low wasn't too far behind this. Overwatch was tested playing with the bots, and again it was running very well. No issues at all, even at epic settings with the 1% low result above the refresh rate of the 60Hz display. PUBG was tested using the replay feature. The 1% lows dropped down a bit compared to the averages at all setting levels, which seems to just be typical of how this game runs. But it played very well for me at high settings or below. CSGO was tested using the Untitled benchmark, and we've got pretty decent average frame rates, and even the 1% lows aren't too bad for this test. They drop a lot from the smokes, nowhere near as bad in actual gameplay though. Rainbow Six Siege was tested with the built-in benchmark, and even maxed out, the results here are quite nice. This game runs well on basically anything, and you shouldn't have any issues with it on the G7. Far Cry 5 was also tested with the built-in benchmark, and again, pretty nice results, averaging above 60 FPS at ultra settings, with the 1% low not that far behind. Assassin's Creed Origins was another that was tested with the built-in benchmark, and again, fairly decent results for this test. Dota 2 was tested using a fairly intensive replay, so this should be a worst case scenario. Realistically, you'll probably get better results than this while actually playing, and we're seeing decent results here. Testing Battlefield 1 in the first campaign mission ran well for me even with ultra settings. The 1% lows dropped down a bit, but I didn't really notice any drops, they're still quite high. Rise of the Tomb Raider was tested with the built-in benchmark, and again, no issues at all. Over 60 FPS averages, even at max settings. Ghost Recon was also tested with the built-in benchmark, and is a more demanding game. It doesn't score too well at ultra settings, but it's going quite well at any other setting level. Watch Dogs 2 is also on the more demanding side, but I don't think it needs a high frame rate to enjoy. I found it to run really smoothly at very high settings or below. The Witcher 3 was also going alright, and doesn't really need a super high frame rate either. It wasn't too bad at ultra, but we can improve the average frame rate a fair bit with lower settings, although the 1% lows don't really budge. Doom was tested using Vulkan, and the average frame rates were quite high even at ultra settings, no noticeable issues at all while playing. Shadow of War was tested with the built-in benchmark, and the results here seem pretty decent compared to other laptops I've tested. Ashes of the Singularity was also tested with the built-in benchmark as more of a CPU-heavy game, and the results are just a little ahead of the Dell G5 I tested with the 8750H CPU and same graphics. But don't worry, I'll compare this further in a future G5 vs G7 video. I've said for a long time that the Nvidia 1060 is a great option for 60 FPS gaming with good settings and modern games. And based on my own testing, the Max-Q variant that we've got here is only about 10% slower than the regular 1060, so we're still able to get some pretty nice results in games. But again, keep in mind the 1060 Max-Q is available in the higher end G7 laptops. Expect lower results with the 1050 or 1050 Ti. I haven't yet tested undervolting or manual overclocking of the i9 CPU or graphics, as this will vary between laptops based on the hardware, but I'll cover those in the full review video along with detailed temperature testing. This is just how the laptop performs out of the box in games, which is probably how most people will end up using it. So how do you guys think the Dell G7 gaming laptop did in these games? As the top-end model in the G7 series, it's doing pretty well, no problems at all running these games even with decent settings. Let me know what you guys thought down in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for the full review of the Dell G7 gaming laptop, as well as future tech videos like this one.